Hello there, good evening indeed, and many thanks for joining us on Rwanda Television News tonight. Here's our hopes that you had yourselves a great and productive day, but also a good start to your week. Now, this is what makes our top stories. The President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, demonstrates that manufacturing mRNA vaccines in Africa is possible and extremely necessary. The government of Rwanda and the EU Commission have signed agreements on financing the special measure to enhance manufacturing capacity and access to vaccines. We are very glad to have your company tonight, and good evening to you once again, and welcome to our edition. As we started off, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, demonstrates that manufacturing mRNA vaccines in Africa is possible and necessary. This was reiterated on Monday as the head of state inaugurated the BioNTech vaccine manufacturing site here in Kigali, Rwanda. Prince Manzi starts us off tonight.
The first phase of the plan that will manufacture vaccines for COVID-19, malaria and tuberculosis is already complete. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Kagame, recalled that this idea was initiated as the whole world was threatened by the COVID-19 pandemic, but Africa was having trouble accessing vaccines, and in collaboration with the African Union Commission, it was ensured that this problem would not happen again. The head of state reiterated that there were some who demonstrated that this is impossible, that the mRNA vaccine be manufactured in Africa, but they were wrong.
When we embarked on this journey to manufacture these vaccines on our continent, we were told that it would take a minimum of 30 years. That was all wrong. It is possible. And because it is possible, it is also necessary. What BioNTech's partnership with Africa demonstrates is that vaccine technology can be democratized. But we could not have reached this point without a wider set of partnerships. We would mobilize quickly and effectively to support the African initiatives.
President Kagame also appreciated the role of Africans in the plant operation.
This facility is designed to be among the most advanced in the world. Most of the staff are from Africa, including the site manager, an engineer from Nigeria. The quality is exactly the same as you would find anywhere else.
This vaccine manufacturing plant is being constructed in partnership with the Germany's BioNTech, the African Union Commission, and the European Union. The President of the European Union, Ursula Leyen, demonstrates that though challenges are there's a way of addressing them.
We can be proud of how much we have achieved together, and of course of how much we can still achieve. This is why today we will sign an agreement of an additional 40 million euros to support Rwanda in its mission to become a center of medical and technological excellence, and to support the African Union, dear Musa, to succeed in the goal that you've set yourself. I've never forgotten that you told me that today Africa is producing 1% of the vaccines that are used in Africa, and that the common goal is that by 2040 you're producing 60% of the vaccines needed on the continent.
The founder and CEO of the BioNTech, Dr. Ogu Sain, demonstrates that the aim is helping the African continent to be self-reliant in terms of vaccine manufacturing.
We want to contribute to build a sustainable, resilient vaccine ecosystem. The essence of our contribution here in Africa is clear. Potential future vaccines need to be produced in Africa, for Africa, addressing regional needs and global standards. This conviction is the driving force behind our first African mRNA vaccine factory. Today's inauguration event is an important milestone in this journey.
It is expected that the plant will start manufacturing vaccines in 2024 and produce 50 million doses annually. The site construction started in June 2022. In March 2023, the first phase of BioNTainers arrived in Rwanda. Apart from Rwanda, the BioNTech vaccine manufacturing plant will have branches in Senegal, Ghana, and South Africa, and this will facilitate in achieving Africa's aim of manufacturing 60% of the required vaccines by 2040. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Various dignitaries across Africa and the globe demonstrate that manufacturing various vaccines in Africa signals a hope in terms of curbing the gap in vaccines equity all over the globe. Prince Manzi continues.
Thank you very much.
The Prime Minister of Barbados, Miamor Motney, demonstrates that for not having medicine and vaccine manufacturing factories in Africa resulted into a gap.
We stand here today as a living example of the concrete steps that are being taken to remove the deficit that has existed between citizens who have been unable to access medicines that are available but not affordable, medicines that are there but not accessible. And today marks a concrete step for the people of Africa and its children and its diaspora.
The President of Senegal, Macky Sall, who was also present at the BioNTech site inauguration, reiterated that it generates hope and pride to Africans.
Today's ceremony is a light of hope, among many others, that gradually on the continent we will get there in spite of difficulties, but together in solidarity, let's make this light of hope a fire that will illuminate our march towards pharmaceutical sovereignty in Africa. I thank you.
The Ghanaian President, Nana Akufo-Addo, appreciates the progress being made by the African continent.
Ghana is delighted to be part of this Pan-African project to manufacture mRNA, COVID, malaria, and TB vaccines from drug substance through drug product to fill, finish, and package.
In addition, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, urges African leaders to enhance collaboration in generating own solutions to challenges hindering the African continent.
Together, let us continue our journey to ensure vaccine independence for Africa and increased access to safe medicine for all Africans as we build a resilient ecosystem and healthier future for our continent.
It is expected that the testing of the mRNA validation will be initiated in 2025. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
The main phase of the BioNTech factory that will produce medicines and vaccines in Rwanda has been completed after a month of intense work that involved the shipping and installation of BioNTainers, which also provided jobs to various Rwandan nationals. We do have the details with Adam Squizera.
In Masoro-Gasao district, in the special economic zone, is where this manufacturing plant, which is expected to be the solution of vaccines on the African continent, located. Initially, the main part of this factory has already completed with 6 BioNTainers. Anshira Dukunda, who is the construction project manager at the BioNTech Kigali site, explains more about this factory that will have the capacity to produce 50 million doses of vaccines per annum.
Is a 3D model of our site, and we have our main building here, and the main building has the heart, which is the BioNTainer hall, where we host our BioNTainers, and we have different sections in the main building. We have obviously the BioNTainer hall, and we have where we host our IT container, a warehouse, buffer area, and this is the QC labs, quality control laboratories, and offices. So that's basically the composition of the main building.
Apart from being a well-established plant in its construction, it will also have the ability to produce vaccines using mRNA, where it will start with COVID-19 vaccines and later it will be added the capacity to make other vaccines including malaria and tuberculosis, as Nduta Mwangi, who's in charge of science and technology at BioNTech Kigali site, explains.
Currently, the mRNA technology that is approved is for COVID-19 vaccine, but the company is currently carrying out trials for several infectious diseases like malaria, TB, HIV, which burden the continent or the global south.
However, over the course of a year and 5 months, this project running in Rwanda has also provided employment to Rwandans, or equivalent of 50% of the workers. This is what Jiza Uwase and Ange Iradukunda consider as a pride of the country.
As a Rwandan, it's really a pride for me to be able to work in this company, as it's, I would say, its intent actually is closing gap in terms of vaccine manufacturing on the African continent. Today on the African continent, at least only 1% of the vaccine produced are intended for the market, and it's important that for us we also have access to vaccine produce in Africa for Africans. So it's really a big pride, and I think it's also a very step forward for Rwanda and Africa. And the fact that all our future pioneers are also going to be Rwandan and also extended to all other African countries, it's really a pride, and I'm happy to really be part of this and playing a role in setting up a footprint for BioNTech in Rwanda.
I was one of the first 6 employees that were hired here. It is really a pride and joy for what we're doing for Africa, for Rwanda, and as a Rwandan working here as well, making a difference. Somehow it feels good to be making a change for this continent.
The head of the BioNTech Kigali site, Aneto Okeke, affirms that apart from the fact that this plant is expected to be the solution in closing the gap in the production of vaccines on the African continent, he also finds that it's a major step forward for the African continent in the health sector.
BioNTech is really focused on ensuring that there's equitable distribution of vaccines within Africa, and this is one of the major reasons why BioNTech is here, making sure that we're putting in this technology of mRNA vaccine for Africa.
Rwanda became the first country to have this BioNTech plant before other countries, including Senegal and South Africa, that also have agreements with BioNTech. The construction of this factory is one of the country's mega projects, which is worth of 100 billion Rwandan francs, where currently 10 Rwandans are working in this factory, as expected that in 2024 the number will rise to 100 workers after learning from the BioNTech experts. Adams Kwizera, RTV News.
Thank you, Adams. And with this being unveiled in Kigali, BioNTech has pledged to contribute to boosting the African health sector through vaccine manufacturing, capacity building, and enhancing research. In an exclusive interview with BioNTech Chief Operations Officer, I started by asking the broader picture of the plant and the expected impact, not only here in Rwanda, but also on the African continent.
I mean, first, let's start with the African continent. It's absolutely mandatory to have production in Africa. So right now, there's only 1 to 2% of the needed vaccines are produced in Africa, and this has to change. So we have to bring production to Africa, and that's why we packaged up the production platform mRNA into a biocontainer that we can establish here, so that it's a fast deployment of the new technology. Rwanda helped tremendously, actually, to show the continent, we are bringing this to the continent. Eventually it is for the continent. We chose Rwanda, but I think everybody's happy with having this in Rwanda, because I think due to the relationships and everything, and together with the African Union, I think everybody agreed, let's do this in Rwanda. That's a very good thing, actually, because we have to start somewhere.
Yes.
Then the local support is tremendous. I mean, look, 1.5 years ago, this was a hilly site. And now what we leased as BioNTech is now a piece of land that was prepared. You see, I mean, now with the rainy season, how much water is coming down, the site is prepared, all the water is taken care of, also, and so on. Everything that we are not experts in, that was provided with tremendous help of the government. So now we have this piece of land here, and then the ecosystem that you're building here, be it because of education, with the talent you have here, with the industry you are getting into Rwanda, this will really work. So all of these things together make it very possible to do here in Rwanda, and it's a fantastic support that we have right now.
Absolutely. And how does BioNTech envision the role of this plant that is being established in the manufacture of vaccine towards contributing to the overall health infrastructure, not only here in Rwanda, but also the African continent?
Yeah, first of all, it's a prototype. It will be the first one, so we have to really get this going. It will help to get regulatory approval for such a project. So basically, all the health authority or regulatory authorities, the EMA, the WHO, the African FDA, and the Rwandan FDA will work together to get this approved. So this is the first step, and this is then a concept you can use for other vaccines and products and technologies and so on once we pave the way here. So that's one thing. The second thing is, with this site there comes vaccine production volumes of 50+ million doses or so, but what it also brings is it's a piece of the ecosystem. So we hope we can contribute with clinical production. We will bring our own clinical studies for malaria, HIV, tuberculosis, and so on to Africa, to the African network, and so on. So ideally, this biocontainer facility is a piece of the African ecosystem for vaccine development and therapeutical development, actually.
Absolutely. And how do you see the role of these in terms of building local capacity and the local health system and sector in general? By local, I do mean here in Rwanda, but also the African continent at large. What do you see as the main role, and how much do you think this will contribute in terms of empowering and ensuring that the African health system is really strong and is really grounded to make sure that solutions that are needed here on the African continent that are specified to the problems the continent faces are really brought to life?
Yeah, I mean, there are these various pieces, like there's the regulatory process. So I think we are helping pave the way for this, but then eventually you will have very strong regulatory authorities that can do any project or any platform, any therapeutic or product by themselves. So this is really trying to get ideas into Rwanda and then work with the local authorities to get this alive. So it's not alive yet. So with the help and the collaboration, we'll get it alive. Second thing is on education. So we need a local workforce, around 100 people or so, to operate this plant. And while we have, of course, a couple of experts in Germany that could come by, or in Europe and so on, we want this plant to be locally run. It's a local plant, so we want to establish training programs, enable a full local management of the plant.
Yes.
So and number three is then, of course, if there is some local outbreak of monkeypox, be it like a certain COVID strain or something, there is a facility that can custom tailor the vaccines towards that. Plus, in a pandemic, there's an African plant situated in Rwanda that can produce according to the African Union needs. So whatever that means. So it's absolutely, it's not controlled by anybody else. It's an African Union plant. It's production in Africa for Africa.
Yeah. So, yeah. What has the COVID-19 taught you, particularly as BioNTech, in terms of the distribution of, let me say, health solutions, including the vaccines that were not distributed equitably around the world? And has this greatly inspired to the establishment of a BioNTech plant here in Rwanda and the other concepts in different African countries that are upcoming?
It was probably the biggest contributor in the beginning to say, look, it's not working. So there are countries or regions that are not having export bans on vaccines and so on. And in case, I hope not, but in case there is a new pandemic or so, Africa has to be able to produce vaccines for themselves. So in Africa, for Africa. So and that's why we said let's think about a concept, and we had half of the concept developed, but then we said like, well, actually we can take this modularized container concept to say like, well, let's package up our, the easiest way to get it is like package it up in the biocontainers, move them over and train a local team so that they can really do this complex process as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So, and that's why we said we do this now, because we can't wait. So you never know when the next pandemic comes, or maybe this pandemic draws out, who knows? We have to do this now. And that's why we started so early. So we said in August 21, we said we go to Africa. In June 22, we did the groundbreaking here in Rwanda. And now we have like a major piece of the hardware that we could show actually that we really mean it. So it has to be done in Africa.
This is the final one. When all this was coming to life, what was the word you got from His Excellency President Paul Kagame when you were coming to a final agreement that BioNTech is establishing in Rwanda? What word did you receive from him in terms of encouragement, but also the continued partnership from the government side to make sure that this gives out the result to the government of Rwanda, but also to BioNTech?
And he welcomed this very much, actually, and he said like he will support whatever he can. And so far, you see what's there. So now there's a big site. On the site there was a mountain 1.5 years ago, and the core technology is in there because of all the help we received from the government,
right,
in terms of preparing that. So I think it's a great partnership, and I hope we continue this fruitfully.
Yes, Mr. Poiting, thank you very much for being with us, and I'll end by saying that all the best. We will really can't wait to see this coming to life and giving out maximum produce.
Well, thank you so much. Much appreciated.
The government of Rwanda and the EU Commission have signed agreements on financing the special measure to enhance manufacturing capacity and access to vaccines, medicines and health technologies in Africa, and a joint declaration on critical raw materials value chains between the government of Rwanda and the European Investment Bank. And President Paul Kagame and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen witnessed the signing of the crucial agreements on health, trade and investment. President Paul Kagame pointed out that Rwanda's relationship with the European Union is not newly established a relationship, but that have been standing for a long time, and this will continue even in the upcoming years in terms of boosting the development of the local citizens.
Rwanda and the European Union have been strong partners, in fact, friends for a long time. Over the years, we have also deepened our cooperation across a wide range of sectors. The two agreements signed today on pharma manufacturing and critical raw materials are a case in point. There are many more things we work very closely on. As a continent, we still rely heavily on imports for vaccines and medicines. We want to change this. And the long-term solution is to strengthen our manufacturing and scientific capacity. Again, European Union has been very active in this, trying to support us in this development.
The President of the European Union noted that the discussions they had with the head of state signaled a plan dedicated to developing other sectors, including agriculture.
And here, Global Gateway invests with 380 million euros in the competitiveness of the food industry in Rwanda. In particular, we are very much looking forward to the construction of the Kigali wholesale market, a big project, a very ambitious project. It will become, this wholesale market here in Rwanda, the distribution hub, the central distribution hub in Eastern and Central Africa for fresh and processed food. And therefore, this will have an exceptional impact on job creating for the people here in Rwanda.
And moving ahead to other matters still related to international cooperation, Rwanda and Germany agreed to further expand cooperation in development, including trade and investment financing. This was told to the media on Monday after the Rwandan Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Vincent Biruta, held discussions with his German counterpart, Annalena Baerbock. The two ministers first held talks aimed at furthering and expanding cooperation in various sectors and improving the bilateral relations between the two states. Minister Biruta demonstrates that the bilateral cooperation has been effective in various sectors to date.
The notable area of synergy has been environment and climate change, where both nations have joined forces to combat global challenges, recognizing the urgent need for sustainable solution. The support for small and medium-sized enterprises has been another focal area, with joint initiatives aimed at fostering innovation and entrepreneurship.
And Minister Baerbock noted that Germany has a lot to learn from Rwanda, including gender equality and women empowerment principles.
Cooperation is one where we can learn from each other in many fields. For example, and I'm thankful that the minister mentioned the foreign policy, feminist foreign policy, because Rwanda, for example, with its quite new constitution, gives also an example for other countries in the world, with a share of 50% women in parliament, which we in Germany, unfortunately, haven't realized yet. So there are many fields from climate change and sustainable urbanization projects. So, for example, we do have an intense exchange also with the Potsdamer Institut für Klimafolgenforschung, the Potsdam Institute for Climate, and the challenges we face with the climate crisis, where we would like to intensify our cooperation.
Rwanda and Germany share development cooperation through various sectors, including education, focusing on science and professions, management, health, industry, and different other sectors. Rwanda and the African Development Bank have signed an agreement that places the headquarters of the African Pharmaceutical Technology Foundation here in the country. Last year, the African Development Bank approved the establishment of the foundation with the support of the African Union, and it was agreed that its headquarters should be located in Rwanda. The president of the African Development Bank has thanked President Paul Kagame for his role in the establishment of the foundation, noting that the continent's bitter experience at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic showed the need for such an initiative.
And that is why the African Development Bank launched a $3 billion program on quality healthcare infrastructure for Africa. The African Development Bank also launched another $3 billion program over the next 7 years on building Africa's pharmaceutical industry to be able to meet the needs of the continent for essential medicines and vaccines. This is critical because Africa imports 70% of its medicines and produces only 1% of its vaccines. Africa, clearly, ladies and gentlemen, must produce its own medicines and vaccines. It's all about health security for the continent. However, success will depend on building local pharmaceutical manufacturing capacity, assuring technology transfer and access to intellectual property rights, protected technologies, manufacturing processes, and systems. Equally important is the need to build the pharmaceutical and biomedical research and development ecosystems that can support world-class local pharmaceutical industries. I would like to particularly thank the Office of His Excellency President Paul Kagame, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Rwanda, the Ministry of Health, and the Rwanda Development Board. I can tell you, when we were trying to set this up, the Rwanda Development Board was exceptional. It took a very short period of time for all this to be done. Please thank them on our behalf. Together, I'm sure we can make Africa really to be a place that finally can produce all it needs and therefore secure the health of its people.
On his part, Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation stressed the importance of such efforts to improve the health and social welfare of all Africans. An agreement was also signed between the Africa Pharmaceutical Technology Foundation and the European Investment Bank, with the latter to provide a technical and other forms of support. On behalf of everyone here at RBS Rwanda Television News, many thanks for being with us. And up until next time, stay safe and have a great and fruitful week ahead. Goodbye.